Hi, this is Lulu. I'm a compulsive overeater, and we're here today to talk about food plans. So there's all different kinds of food plans in OA, um, just like there's all different conceptions of God. Okay, so there's food plans and conceptions of God that work for some people, don't work for some people. I'm just here to talk about the food plan that works for me and that appears to work for everybody. No, it doesn't appear. It clearly works for the people that I suggested to that take the suggestion. So I'm not like promoting this as anything like, my way is the best way. You got to do it my way. If your recovery feels really rich and you're on a food plan that is loose and just there's options and there's not real clear boundaries, there's maybe moderation in meals and all that stuff, then it's working for you, as long as your recovery is really rich. My recovery is only rich when my food is crystal clear. This is how much, this is when it begins, this is when it ends, this is what it includes, and this is how much of each thing it includes. And that's what works for me. That so-called restrictive food plan actually brings me the most unlimited amount of freedom that I couldn't even have imagined. So it actually brings me freedom. It doesn't make me feel restricted and that I'm like, you can say like, well, it's just not realistic. Well, yeah, I'm a freaking food addict with a disease. Like maybe I can't do stuff like that just like normal people, just like people with other diseases need to make adjustments to their life in order to keep themselves healthy. This food plan for me is my treatment plan. It's my treatment plan, along with the step work. So we have the food plan. The only difference with the food plan with men and women, it's the same, only for men, it's just the amounts are higher because men are just more muscular and typically have higher metabolisms. But this is always like a food plan where I usually start people because it usually is the one that works for everybody, although sometimes things need to be adjusted. Somebody might say, oh, this 16 ounces of vegetables at each meal is just like so much. I'm like, how did you get to like 250 pounds? Like if you can't even eat a 16-ounce salad. I'm just like, just kind of think about it, and you might want to think about sitting down and enjoying that 16 ounces of veggies, and so you get some nice bulk and filling, and it's going to take you to the next meal. That's what takes me to the next meal, that volume of vegetables. So, but some things need to be adjusted. Sometimes people are allergic to things, so we remove them from the food plan. Some people can't eat fruit at all because fruit is like eating cake to them. It just sparks up, like they know this about themselves. They eat fruit and they're just like, they're ready for a cupcake. So they just eliminate fruit from their food plan. Why go through that torture? Why go through that torture of craving? We want the cravings to dissipate, and so we have to take all those alcoholic foods out. For me, I eat fruit very freely. Some people can't do that. Some people maybe just can't do the dried fruit because dried fruit, it's like, oh, it feels like I'm eating candy, and it sparks something up in me. It doesn't do that to me. I can easily weigh 2 ounces of that and eat it, and I don't feel like I need more of it or I need cookies. So same with grains. Some people can't do any grains at all. There's something about the carbs. For me, it's just flour, those kind of carbs, any kind of processed floured items, they just don't work for me. I mean, I'll just want a pizza when I'm done with this cute little slice of bread. Just doesn't work for me. There's nothing cute about me when I eat a piece of bread. Nothing cute. And but I can eat rice and I can eat potatoes very peacefully. I just eat what brings me peace. Is there anything you'd like to add at this point before we bring up the food plan?
Yeah, I think I just want to add there that kind of a rule of thumb that I use, and I invite my sponsees to just be aware of, that I love that the scale tells me or my food plan has specific weights and measures of the things that I eat. And if there's something that I'm putting on the scale that still calls to me after I've eaten that weight amount, if it's like occupying my mind, if it keeps coming, I'm just like, oh, I just want that. I just want it. It's got to go. It's taken up too much headspace. And for me, for example, nut butters are just not a thing that I can, that are safe for me to eat. Funny that regular nuts are fine. They don't call to me. In fact, like peanuts, I don't like them. Peanut butter would call to me. And so that had to be dropped. So just keeping in mind that even if a food is abstinent, like it doesn't have sugar, it doesn't have flour, there are still things that are quote unquote abstinent that may not work for my body. So I'm aware of those things, and I talk with my sponsor about them. It's just real clear, real cut and dried. And it just makes my life so much easier. I don't have to play with it or think about it. It's just done. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I freely eat nut butters, almond butter, peanut butter, without, obviously without sugar. Just you're looking for that one ingredient, or maybe salt too. It just doesn't call me. But it's not only just, having it and still kind of being lit up by it, but you also have to think about those things that you're going to have for dinner, and you're thinking about it all day. You can't wait. Oh, I can't wait for dinner because I'm going to have that peanut butter on rice cakes. Ooh la la.
Right.
It's like then you spend your whole afternoon thinking about the peanut butter. It's like, that's when it's a food that's just lighting up your thoughts, your brain. And so and only what's going on. And if you want freedom from food, you'll recognize what those things are. And then little by little, you'll surrender things. There's things that I've surrendered to. Anyway, so why don't we just bring the food plan up? We'll look at the women's one. We have 3. One of them is to be put on the website. Just remember the website is 12 Step It Up, STEPITUP at blogspot.com.
.blogspot, right?
Yeah, on the step 0 page, or is it on the step 1 page?
It's on step 1.
Step 1. On the step 1 resources tab is the food plans. And there's going to be 3 there. One that's suggested for women, one that's suggested for men, and one that's suggested for anybody that has health issues that would require you to have small meals instead of large meals. Instead of 3 large meals, maybe 6 small meals. And that would be people that I know that are currently on that are, one has hypoglycemia, which is kind of like a pre-diabetic issue. So they need to eat smaller amounts more often to keep their blood sugar stable. Although I think that she'll probably transition into a 3 meal a day once she takes care of herself, and she's not, just like a type 2 diabetic kind of a thing that you can kind of get rid of it. And then also there's somebody that has had the gastric bypass surgery. They need to eat smaller amounts more often. So those are the people. I'm no doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. This is what, if there's anybody with any health issues, I say, this is the food plan. You need your doctor's stamp of approval on it, because this is what I think would work for a diabetic. This is what I think would work for somebody with gastric bypass surgery. This is what I think would work for you. Do you have any health issues? And if somebody says, no, I have no health issues, then follow this. Chances are it's going to work really great for you. If you have this, that, anything that has dietary issues connected with health issues, then you need to bring it to a nutritionist. But I also tell people, when you bring a food plan to a nutritionist for the stamp of approval for their health issues, it also needs to have my stamp of approval as somebody that's a food addict, that knows about food addiction, because not all nutritionists are going to bring that piece into it. And they'll be like, well, you can have just like one little piece of cake and you can have one little, and it's like, no. So we kind of have to bounce this food plan back and forth between, so it covers, so your health issues are being managed and your food addiction is being managed. Do you have anything else to add to that, Shalece? Good?
Nope, I think that's spot on.
Okay. So if you want to screen share that food plan, we can just go through it really quickly or not quickly. Okay, so so this would be for somebody that needs to reduce. I follow this food plan, except I've had some things added so that I maintain my weight. Some servings have increased, or some categories have been added. And then it's a slow process to find out exactly what your body needs. So for breakfast, you have a protein and a grain and a fruit. For lunch, you have a protein, a vegetable, and an oil serving. For dinner, you have a protein, a vegetable, a grain, and an oil. Simple, simple, simple. So now, what constitutes a protein? What constitutes a grain, a fruit, a vegetable, an oil? How do I pick what I have? So you just look at these lists below. So a protein, it's either 4 ounces of any meat, poultry, fish. That should probably say cooked, because I get that question a lot. I'm thinking about the questions I'm getting asked. I want to update it. I don't have a pen or a paper. Can you write that down, Shalece?
You got it.
Okay,
yep.
Thanks. And 2 eggs, 2 ounces of hard cheese. That would be any kind of cheese that you would slice that would need to be sliced. That's how you know it's hard, like a hunk of cheddar or something. 4 ounces of cottage cheese. That would be plain. You don't want it with any kind of fruit in it or any kind of flavorings in it, just plain. And then 8 ounces of yogurt. And that's another question I get about this, you can write that down, is it, fat-free, full fat? It doesn't matter. If I ate yogurt, I don't eat yogurt, but if I ate yogurt, I'd probably get the full fat Greek because I can. And I want to be satiated in between meals. But then what happens is when the month goes by, you weigh in and you're not really losing much, or you're losing at a slow clip. You might want to look at the choices you're making and saying, hey, how about if you change that yogurt to reduced fat or low fat or no fat or whatever. But maybe you'll lose just fine with the full fat. 2 ounces of nuts, seeds, nut butters, obviously no sugar in the nut butters. So nuts would be, every kind of nut that you can imagine. I typically get raw nuts. They just feel more like a protein and less like a snacky thing that I used to eat at the bar with a cocktail, So I like to just get just raw, unroasted, unsalted nuts. And I get every one that exists, I get. I happen to follow a vegan diet. I've been eating a vegan diet for 20 years. I was a vegan in food addiction. I was a fat vegan. Vegan does not make you skinny and sane, okay? It was just a choice that I made 20 years ago. I've never wavered from it, but I'm just saying that I don't eat that stuff, I think that's why I'm just saying I'm kind of expanding on the nuts, because they're a main protein source for me. Most people are probably eating meat, fish, and poultry, which is just fine. But the seeds, the pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, sesame seeds, alfalfa seeds, I get them all. I get all those too. And then the beans. So you can make your own beans or the canned beans. Just look for sugar. You don't want any of them that have the sugar in the can. Rinse and use those, 6 ounces of those. I made my lunch today. I haven't eaten it yet, but and it looks so pretty. I took a picture of it, and I'm going to screen share it in a little bit. But I used 3 ounces of beans, which was a half of a protein, and I used 1 ounce of sunflower pumpkin seed mix, which is a half of a protein. So I have the beans, and then I have the seeds sprinkled all over the top. So you can split things up too. So you could have like, 2 ounces of chicken with 1 ounce of cheese. You can split things up. And then there's the hummus, 4 ounces of hummus. Just look for your ingredients. There's a lot of brands that don't have sugar in it. And then there are brands that have sugar in it. You don't want those. All different flavors, and it's wonderful. Now, hummus is made with beans, but the reason that you have a smaller portion of it is because of the other ingredients, which are abstinent ingredients and that are in hummus, which is it's just more fat. And then the veggie burgers, you can do veggie burgers. Watch your ingredients for flour and sugar. But there are some out there if that's what you like. And then for tofu, I use a half a package for a protein. And the reason it's not a weight is because when you take tofu out of a package, it's like a big sponge that's like soaked up with water. So with the water, it weighs a lot. Without the water, because sometimes I press it to cook, it weighs a lot less, So if you just some people eat it with all the water in it. Some people eat it all pressed out. Half of the package is just, if it's all watered up, it weighs a lot. If it's pressed out, it weighs a little. So we just do a half package. Do you have anything to add, Shalece, about the proteins?
Nope, I think you covered everything there. Well, yeah, just like you said with the nuts, I go with stuff that's not been roasted or salted. A lot of times those things will have extra oil in them, so I avoid those. But I think, yeah, that covers it.
Yeah, you'll see nuts that have oil in an ingredient. You don't want those. I mean, like they're not fat. Nuts are a very fatty thing. They're a plant-based fat. But like you don't want, there's no reason to add fat to fat, So do you want to take the grain category?
That would be great. And then if you want to look at the chat section, a few questions have been in there. I've thrown a couple of answers, but okay. So grains would be 4 ounces. And again, remembering that this is a woman's plan, we have it, the weights will be different on a man's plan, but we'll go over that as well. So 4 ounces of rice or a potato, quinoa, sweet potato. I also put corn here. Corn is a grain. It's not a vegetable. And then also squashes like spaghetti or butternut squash, acorn squash. What do you think about spaghetti squash? I don't use it, but I know people who do.
Well, squash, I think it's like the winter squashes, and then there's summer squashes. And I think the winter squashes are the ones that are really starchy. Mm-hmm. And then the summer squashes, like the yellow squash and the zucchini.
Yeah.
And and spaghetti squash is that one is a low carb one too.
Oh, great. Okay, so that can be a vegetable as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so we may want to just throw those on there as well.
Yeah, and also peas. So I have added 4 ounces of corn or peas. This one it's been revised since it was posted on this website. We'll get the most recent one up.
Okay, and peas in a pod, would you count those as a
peas in a pod? You mean pea pods?
Or like pea pods? Yeah, that'd be veggie. Yeah.
Yeah, like snow peas.
Yeah.
Snow peas are a veggie. Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of like drawn a line. It's like, okay, here's what I'm gonna. Yeah.
Well, if you just look at the nutritional facts, you'll see that pea pods have hardly any calories and hardly any carbs. If you look at like frozen peas, if you read that label, you'll see that they're higher in calorie and they're high in carb. So you can kind of decide, figure it out there, or just ask the sponsor.
Right. And then determine that. Okay. So, and then this is one we get questions on a lot, is the oatmeal. Like if you're doing oatmeal for breakfast, it's 2 ounces dry. Like when I'm weighing out my rice or potato or quinoa or whatever, that's cooked. It's 4 ounces cooked, but oatmeal would be 2 ounces dry before you add the water. And then 3 rice cakes. rice cakes are an awesome on-the-go thing. I use them all the time. They are just basically brown rice, and like if you just a plain rice cake, brown rice and sea salt is basically the ingredients in those. Any other things you want to add for the grains?
Yeah. So yeah, it's really clear right there that the potato, quinoa, all the whole grains, any potatoes or rice, or rice is there. It says cooked. It says or any cooked grain. And then the 2-ounce oatmeal, it says weigh it before water. That's because some of us like it really thick and some of us like it really thin. But what makes it thin or thick is just water. So we really don't, we don't want to use that weight. You don't want to use that weight to count as your food, you know?
It makes sense to weigh it dry.
And also the rice cakes, I'm going to highly recommend a brand called Lundberg, Lundburg. Those Quaker ones are like styrofoam. Like, you know, when you take a bite and it squeaks on your teeth because it's like, like you just bit into styrofoam. Those ones I do not enjoy at all. But the brand Lundberg, Lundberg, they come in wild rice, brown rice. They're just delightful because they're nice and crunchy, and they're just like wild rice and salt, brown rice and salt, and they just don't have that. They don't have a styrofoam feel at all.
And see, I eat the styrofoam ones.
What? You like the squeak? The tooth squeak?
I do. I just do.
That's okay. Hey, to each their own.
To eat them daintily. It's very difficult.
Have you ever tried the Lundberg ones?
I haven't. I've seen them a couple of places, and I might give them.
Oh, I thought maybe you tried them and you prefer the styrofoam ones.
Nope.
Try them and let me know. Look me up and let me know.
And I just saw that we have a question about rice, white or brown.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, and for me, it does matter because I was a binger on rice, so that, you know, I stick with brown rice for me.
Yep. See, that's something unique to the person. So if you have white rice on your food plan, and you're just like every time you're having it, you're either thinking about it before you have it, or you're drooling while you are having it, or you want more when you're finished. Maybe the brown rice is something you want to consider changing your food plan to accommodate that. Because what we want freedom up in the head. We want freedom, you know? So that's what so the rice cakes, oatmeal, yep. So cooked rice, potatoes, sweet potatoes, quinoa, buckwheat, you know, any kind of whole grains that you enjoy. And I've had that millet, or I think that's how you pronounce it, millet. And anyway, we'll get to these questions too as soon as we're done. So yeah, you want to take the fruit?
Yeah, I was just going to, and I was looking at the plan, and we'll want to cover oils as well. I'm realizing they're not on this.
Oh yeah.
Plan, but
Yes.
Okay. So fruit, it's 1 piece of fruit: apple, orange, banana, peach. So basically, it's any of those would count as a piece, you know, a serving of fruit, or 6 ounces of loose dyed or diced fruit: berries, grapes, cantaloupe, watermelon, fruit salad. And those things, I usually just cut up my fruit and weigh it out. It just feels better to me. But occasionally I will grab a piece of fruit on the go. Any thought? Oh yeah. And then we've got the dried fruit: 2 ounces of dried fruit, raisins, dates, etc. Always checking labels, because dried fruit can have added sugar in them. And again, that's something that I don't eat, just because when I don't necessarily, I didn't binge on them, but when my first sponsor started me, we just didn't do dried fruit. So I still don't, even though it's like on my plan, I just don't do it. So any other thoughts on fruits?
Yeah. So on the go, the dried fruit, if it works for you and you don't find yourself kind of lit up from it's just very condensed fruit. So it's extra sweet. I don't have a reaction to it, and I have peace about it. I prefer to have the fresh fruit because it's more volume and it's just fresh. But sometimes if it's great to have dried fruit on hand for when I'm out, when I'm all out. But I always weigh my fruit too. But the reason it says a piece of fruit is because, you know, there's a lot of people that work and they're on the go, and it's just so much easier to throw an apple in without saying, well, how much does it weigh? And, oh, but I don't eat the core. So if now I would like to cut it off the core to see what it weighs, but then now it's exposed and it's going to get brown before I eat it. Yeah. So, you know, it's just that option to have the, a piece of fruit without having to open it, just for convenience. But if I was eating an orange, I would peel it and I would weigh all the sections. And if I needed a little something more, I would just take something off of something else and make it, or I would take it away, because I make it precise. I like to make it precise. And I like to buy, like, dried fruit. I buy raisins, all different kinds of raisins. I buy the dates. I buy figs. I buy mission figs and Turkish figs, and I buy dried apricots, and I buy like bags of each one, and then I mix them all together, and I have like mixed dried fruit, and it lasts, so you always have fruit in if you run out. And then I just if I'm going to have it for a fruit, I have 2 ounces, and then it's over. Yeah, so the vegetables, I eat 16 ounces. It's cooked or raw, or a combination of both. Some people have an issue with that volume. They do 12. You know, I highly recommend 16. Just take your time and enjoy the 16. Get yourself nice and full, not uncomfortably full, but just gently full. And it just takes you to the next meal, that bulk. And do you have anything to say about the veggies?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I love that it says just raw or a combination of both. I will have sponsees start, and they will have their entire veggies is broccoli. And I'm going, that's a lot of broccoli. And so I highly recommend having people, you know, just break up your veggies, have a different combination of different things, just to keep it fresh, keep it rotated, and you're getting a good variety, and it doesn't get boring. You know, there's so many beautiful vegetables out there that you can enjoy that it doesn't need to just be broccoli, and then you'll just hate broccoli. You know what I mean? Yeah, anyway.
Plus, plus, if you're having a salad, a 16-ounce salad, if you're using lettuce and any kind of greens, it can look huge by the time you're done. It's a big ass salad, okay? Because all of those greens just take up a lot of space, and they take a long time to chew. And I think that's when people are like, this is just too big. But you know something? I make salads all the time. I make them with greens. I make them without greens. Without greens, I mean, I just dice up a tomato, dice up a cucumber, put in some artichoke hearts. I put in some shredded carrots, and you know, maybe I open a can of sliced. Yeah, and then it's just a much smaller serving. It's not all bulked up with lettuce, but some people like volume. Here's your chance to have all the volume you want. You make a big salad with, you know, some curly arugula, and you're going to have a nice, huge meal. You know, you have for lunch, if you have this great big 16-ounce salad, and then you put your protein on top of it, and then your oil, then your vinegar. You got one big, really big, nutritious meal. And so the condiments: free to use mustard, vinegar, spices, lemon, cinnamon, Pam spray, herbs, soy sauce, fat-free broths and stocks, unless you find yourself abusing these things. I mean, you know, we're all kind of a little cuckoo. So, you know, I mean, if you're sitting down having a glass of vinegar, like, you might want to look at that. You know, in a little martini glass. Yeah, you might want to look at that. And obviously, any of these things, you're going to look for ingredients of sugar or flour. You know, you don't want the mustard that has the sugar in it, or the soy sauce that has the sugar in it. Yeah.
Right.
So
And I've seen balsamic vinegar also that has either honey or sugar in it as well. So you just want to look at your labels,
yes, and
catch
then
your
there's also a balsamic vinegar they call it, where it's like reduced and it's like syrupy, and there's something in it.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's
Uh-huh.
something in it that I think sugar's on
Like
that
it
ingredient list. Yeah.
has honey, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And you
Reduction
just, yeah.
sauce. It's probably like a balsamic reduction. You want to probably avoid that because it's boiled
Yeah.
down with honey and sugar and all that. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I usually get apple cider vinegar, and I usually have, what I do is I keep my oil and vinegar in a little squirt bottles, the squirt bottles that have a little tip at the top. And I have my oil in one, and I have my balsamic in another, and I have the oil and vinegar in another. But the vinegar ones, I have the squeezy bottles that have a little covers on each tip, because if you don't cover the tips of the vinegar, it attracts little fruit flies. But the oil doesn't. I just keep the oil open. And that's how I can very easily monitor the amounts I'm putting on, because it's just coming out of a little thing. So it's really great for the oil, because you can kind of really spread it on your whole meal more evenly when it's coming out of a little tip, instead of when you're trying to dump it out of a bottle, you know. But the oil, we'll talk about the oil. So a tablespoon of oil is, it's a lot of oil. But you know something, this is a food plan. We don't want to be hungry in between. We don't want to be doing that crazy dieting anymore, where we're just not, every meal you're just waiting for the next one because you're freaking starving, and because you're not really nourishing yourself. So you just have to trust that. Some people think that this is like too much food. Well, let's look and see if it's too much food by you follow it for a month, and let's see what happens, because let's see what happens. You just never know what's going to happen. You might respond to it well, you might not. You might not lose it. Who knows anybody's metabolism? You don't know until we experiment. But once you're in the program and once you follow a food plan, you know, there's no race, you know, just like, let's take that month to see if this works. I always say, look for 3 things. This will tell you that you're not having enough food, or that you're not, because when you tell yourself you're hungry, oh, I'm following this food plan, but boy, am I hungry in the afternoon. Do you think I can have a snack? And it's like, you know, you have to have a new relationship with hunger. Hunger is not the end of the world. Hunger is not pain. Hunger is a God-given signal that is saying, it's almost time for nutrition again, Lulu. I hope it's coming soon. And if it doesn't come too soon, I might start growling, right? And so you get this kind of this signal. Thank God, God gives us that signal so that we're always going to be fueled and nourished. It's kind of like that light that comes on in your car that says you need fuel. You fuel the light. It's almost time to go to the gas station. Car still runs. I still run when my red fuel light is on. But if I'm feeling lightheaded, dizzy, or weak, if I'm feeling lightheaded, dizzy, or weak, that means that I'm not having enough food. If I feel hungry, it's okay. Just have a new friendship with hunger. It's not critical. How many times have you felt hungry and then your phone rings and you're on your phone with somebody for like an hour, and you know, you weren't on that phone call for an hour thinking about your hunger. You were totally distracted from it because it wasn't real hunger. See, food addicts, we don't have that hunger meter very well, you know? So always just look for those symptoms. If you're lightheaded, dizzy, or weak, when I have sponsees on this food plan, I don't want you to feel either one of those things for even 5 minutes. It's not enough food. You need to feel good every day, all day. It needs to be just enough food to fuel your body, and you will release the weight. I always thought the less you eat, the more restrictive you are, the starvation diets. Oh, sure, you're dropping weight like crazy, but it's not even fat. You're not even losing fat. You're losing, like, your body's trying to figure out how to stay nourished while you're starving yourself. And it's like, it's releasing fluids, it's trying to store fat, because it's like, holy moly, what's going on here? I better store this. And then we wonder why we don't, you know, whatever we lose is always temporary anyway. This is just a very sustainable food plan. And then we build on this. You know, when you reach your goal weight, you start to build, adding little things, adding, like maybe you'd add like a grain at lunch. Okay, and let's see what happens in a month. Let's see what happens with that. See if your weight stabilizes. Oh, you lost another pound? Okay, let's add a fruit at dinner. You know, so it's always a trial and error, month to month. We're not doing all this crazy stuff looking for what works in 2 days, because that's not real. You know, we want to see what happens over a month's time. Do you have anything to add to this before we get to these questions, Shalece?
I do, actually. I wanted to just hop back up to the grain section, because I think it would be a good idea to talk about popcorn and rice crackers and wheat thins and all of those things. That I have people ask me these questions all the time when I get them on a food plan. What about popcorn? Can I have popcorn? Can I have, you know, it's a grain. What about corn tortillas? What about corn chips? What about, you know, rice crackers? What about, you know, where they're all great. It's a grain. You got to draw the line somewhere. And for me, I just don't do any snacky foods at all. Like, I just don't. I fill my plate with things that are nutritious and that are satisfying. And there are some things that are easy on the go. Like I say, the rice cakes are awesome when I'm on the go for a quick grain, in a on the go lunch or dinner. But you know, those types of things, I've seen people slide off food plans on those things. Oh, it's a grain, and then it's a binge food. You know, and it's just not something that I would recommend to people. Any thoughts on that part?
Yeah, well, when people want to know if they can have popcorn, it's just like, well, what meal are you going to have popcorn with? So, like, what are you going to have for dinner? You're going to have, like, oh, I'll have a piece of chicken, and I'll have a salad, and I'll have a bowl of popcorn, and like, that's not a meal. Like, it's just not a meal. It's a snack, you know. So it's like, you know, we don't want to. If you find yourself looking for like loopholes, it's just your disease, and it's okay. It's okay. Just ask about it. And I like to give good logical reasons why when I say no to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, you know, you can have anything you want. You can eat whatever you want. But it's kind of like, if you want what I have, this is what I do. That's basically my motto. But I'm looking at so I'm looking at some of the questions. So, are you ready to move on to the questions, Shalece?
Yeah, actually, if we can, we can do that. And then I have a couple of other things. Like I would love to cover just weighing, like what that looks like, being precise with measurements, because that's kind of something that you have to kind of move into when you come into abstinence. It's not something we're used to. So I'd love to cover that as well.
Okay. Maybe we can, after we do the food plan, we can have a separate recording on weighing the food scale and the body scale.
Love it. Let's do it.
Okay. Food, my plan for reducing has a grain at lunch. Is that correct? It's the same amount of food. It's the same amount of food, so it's correct. Personally, I put the grain at dinner, because after dinner and before the next meal is the longest stretch of time. And I just feel like to stay better satiated from, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. It's like the longest fasting period. So I typically suggest that the grain is at dinner. Some people would say to me, well, can I have the grain at lunch instead? And I always ask why. Not because I want to challenge anybody. Just tell me why. When you want to change, I want to know why. And I just want to make sure your disease is not talking. That's all. Because I know what the disease talking sounds like, because I've said it all myself. What about butter? So yes, some people. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yep.
That's okay. I kind of answered in the chat section, but I want to say that in my experience, the people that I've seen in this program with long-term sobriety or abstinence are on some variation of this plan. Maybe the measurements look different for them. My first sponsor put me on, I'm on 9 ounces of veggies at lunch and dinner. And she, on my reduction plan, she had me on a grain at dinner as well. So, but we watched that and it worked for me. So that's what I pass on. So it's kind of, you work with your sponsor, and that if they're recovering, they're going to, again, ask those questions, why, or if you're wanting to add something, they're going to know. If they're in recovering, they're going to guide you to recovery as well. So again, I think like what Lulu said, this is the plan that we're suggesting, and there are different bodies, different needs for the body, but we're just working. We got to have something solid. We got to have something solid to work with. So this is the suggestion we're making.
Yeah, and also this is the food plan that's suggested to begin with and to work with, to make changes that are unique to you that become a brand new food plan. Like, and when I'm discussing a food plan with somebody and we're agreeing on some changes, I say, you go into the food plan. You've just said that you don't eat that. Oh, you've just decided that dried fruit isn't working for you because you're just sparking up. Okay, go into the food plan, delete 2 ounces of dried fruit, raisins and dates, email me your new food plan. Because now it's just off your food plan. It's not even something that you don't pick, So the same thing with, what were we just talking about? We were just talking about.
Just with grains and different.
Oh, with the grains. Oh, if somebody says, I want to have grain at lunch instead of dinner because blah, blah, blah. And it was agreed upon, I say, okay, go into the food plan, take the 1 grain out of dinner and put it into the lunch, email it to me, because now that's your new food plan. So it's about identifying and cementing in your own unique way, for your own unique reasons, that preferably decisions that you're not making on your own, but that you're including somebody else in your decisions. Somebody that's successfully
agreed.
follows a food plan for years and has a recovery that you are aspire to enjoy yourself.
That's what, and I think having just such a black and white plan, it's for an alcoholic, it's no alcohol. It's so black and white. There is no wiggle room. And my food plan needs to be the same. It needs to be so cut and dried, so black and white. And again, with my body weight, it's going to, my plan is going to shift depending on where I'm at on the scale. And that, once that plan is set, I weigh once per month. And when those changes are made, that's my new black and white. It's not, oh, well, last month I was able to do that. It's just like, boom, we make that change and it's done. I don't think about it again for another month. So it's just it's so freeing to just have such solid boundaries around food.
My black and white solid food plan actually changes seasonally, because when the spring comes and I'm working out in the yard and I garden, I have garden beds galore, and I have like a farm out there, and I mow the lawn and I hike, and I my weight starts dropping way below my ideal weight. So I need more food in the summer. And then usually right around this time of year is when I'll see weight creeping up. And that will be those things that I add come out. It's not rocket science, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's really cool.
And I discovered living in Phoenix, it's exactly the opposite for me. I become sedentary in Phoenix in the summer because we just don't go outside in the summer, and so thank goodness for being able to I'm not making these decisions on my own. I've got a sponsor that's helping me to cement those, and I'm not sponsoring myself with my food. I do not have a good track record with making good decisions with food. It was bad. So I love just being free from needing to make those decisions, that it's just made and I can just live my life.
So the other question was about butter. If you talk to your sponsor about having, like, I don't put butter on it because I just am an oil kind of girl. I just feel like it's just more nutritious. But if somebody says, can I have butter for my fat? I would ask why, and then I would say yes. because it's the same nutritional value numbers as far as caloric numbers and stuff. It's the same fat. I would, so yeah. But I guess I just,
So there was
it could,
also, oh, sorry,
it could be, it could be on this plan. It could be, well, any oil really, you know, a tablespoon of oil has 100 calories. So if you see coconut oil, it probably is 100 calories. It's in a tablespoon. If you see, you know, almond oil or vegetable oil or I don't know, olive oil, I usually use olive oil, you know, but as long as it's just oil and it's in that same range of oil, just like butter is 100 calories. We don't talk about calories in this program, but I'm just saying, like, when you're comparing items, you do want to compare some numbers, so you're in that kind of same thing. So it's like it has the same fat grams, the same calories, butter, oils. It's kind of all the same. It's generally the same contents. So they're all interchangeable as long as it's not oil that has sugar in it or that's mixed with something else. You just want a pure oil.
And I was just seeing in the chat section that we've got
the free items.
Avocado. Oh, that as well, and then avocado.
What would be a suggested serving size for the free to use items? I'm sure you can have as much as you want. There is no portion size. I mean, I just don't think that unless you're abusing these foods, I would think that they would be used very lightly. Sometimes I'll take a little container and I'll weigh my oil in it, and then I'll put some vinegar in it, and then I'll put a little squirt of like Dijon mustard in it, and then I'll put some herbs in it, and then I squeeze a little lemon in it. Then I put a cover on it and I shake, and I have like a little vinaigrette that's kind of awesome. But I don't want like a half a jar of mustard in it. Like, it wouldn't taste good. So
yeah, these things are strong flavors.
Yeah, these are very strong flavors. Like, typically nobody's going to want a half a jar of mustard. What the heck are you going to put it on? Sometimes if I have cabbage for my veggie, like I'll steam cabbage with onions and it's all steamed, and I'll use mustard. I'll just drizzle some mustard on top, but I don't want it swimming in mustard, you know? So I don't really feel like it needs boundaries. Vinegar, you don't want a salad that has too much vinegar. It wouldn't even taste good, you know? Spices and herbs. I mean, I think that who would abuse those? Like, they're not even delicious if it's too much, you know? Cinnamon, I use loads of cinnamon. I love cinnamon on my breakfast, in my oatmeal, on my sweet potatoes. Again, I don't want things over dusted in cinnamon. It wouldn't even taste good. The broths, you know, I mean, that would be to, like, somebody mentioned that to make a soup, but I find if I cook my veggies in a little bit of water to make a soup and I put herbs and stuff, I can just do it with water. I don't even need a broth. It makes its own broth. Mm-hmm. And then soy sauce, like the other night I had steamed some pea pods and some broccoli, and then I put my oil on it, and then I was like, I don't want vinegar on it. I was just like, oh, I'm going to sprinkle a little soy sauce on it. So it was like a little Chinese thing. And so I hope that's helpful about the, you would need portion sizes for these items if you found yourself abusing them. You'd just be like, call your sponsor and you just say, I see that mustard's on the food plan. I find in myself I'm putting mustard on my oatmeal, you know, and be like, well, mustard's probably a problem for you, you know? So that's why it says, unless you find yourself abusing these things, and it's up to you to really see if it's a problem food for you, you know? Do you have anything to say about that, Shalece? So I'm going to continue.
No, I think that's really good. Like I say, the condiments and things are so strong flavored. You're not going to be sitting down eating a jar of mustard or drinking a shot glass of. And if you are, then you might want to talk to your sponsor about it. But I highly doubt that.
So I'm looking
No
about the
problem.
thing about cooking oils. Sometimes I need to use it to warm things in a pan. Okay, so that's fine. You measure out your oil, and then you can cook in it. I don't choose to do that. I choose to do a light coat of Pam spray, just so things don't stick. And then I start putting my things in, cook, 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 cook. I like to have my meal all plated, and then my oil goes on top. I don't like it to almost be gone, disappeared, absorbed in the food because it's been cooked. I like to have I get a really, really nice organic extra virgin olive oil that actually has like a nice flavor. And I like to just drizzle my oil serving on top of my food, and it's present. It's present in the meal. I like it to be present in the meal. But if that's not something that's important to you, and you want to put your tablespoon of oil in a frying pan and start cooking your onions and peppers and mushrooms and zucchini and putting a can of diced tomatoes or whatever, the thing is now you've got your oil in there, so you better be putting 16 ounces of veggies in there. See, when I cook veggies, I do the PM spray real quick just so that nothing's going to stick. And I'll cook, boom, 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 boom. I got it all going on. Now, I might have enough for 2 meals in there. I might have enough for a meal and a half in there. But I'm going to take it out of there. I'm going to put it in my dish and weigh the 16 ounces. And then whatever's left over goes in, because it's not, now I don't have any oil mixed in that I'm trying to figure out the measurements. And then I put my protein, then I put my grain, and then I do my oil on top of everything. So that's what I do for that's my method for cooking with oil. I typically do not, because I like it to be present. Lemon or lime juice. Yep, lime. It doesn't say lime, but lemon and lime. Maybe we can change that too.
Mm-hmm.
Lime juice is fine. You know, if you were having something kind of Mexican, like if you made some rice and then you made pinto beans, and then you had like peppers, onions, and mushrooms, and then you had you use some kind of Mexican spice. Just watch your spice labels for sugar. And so now you've got these like spicy veggies, and you put it on a bed of rice, and then you have all your beans, and then you might want to squeeze some lime juice on it, because lime juice is a kind of a Mexican thing, so there's an idea. Yeah, I see what you said, Bonnie, about the spray. Yeah, I just like, if you're going a long time with it, you kind of we just lost our, oh, there we go, we got it. We kind of lose our if you're kind of trying to use it as a what am I trying to think? If you're trying to use it as like free fat, and you start like coating everything with this PM spray and saying, oh, I can have PM spray, so I'm going to spray the pan, then I'm going to put the food in, I'm going to spray on the top, and then I'm going to toss it, then I'm going to spray it again, and then I'm going to spray it one more time, and then I'm going to put oil on it. It's kind of like, you know what you're doing, you know what you're doing. So I just use it just for the purpose that something won't stick. That's what I do. Brown rice, white rice, any color rice works, as long as it's rice. Not like a rice pilaf, not like a rice-a-roni. You want to look at those things, because those, I can't think of what those are called. In like a rice pilaf, there's like some grains of rice that look like a little bit bigger than the rice that are mixed in. And that might be risotto, I'm not sure. But actually, if you look at the ingredients of those, it's actually pasta. It looks like rice, but it's pasta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You just want to look for rice. Rice. What's the ingredient? Rice. That's it. That's when you know you get the right one. Yeah, so Bonnie can't eat the brown rice. Shalece can't eat the white rice. Then your food plan says white rice, or it says brown rice instead of just rice. You just really fine tune it. Like mine would have the meat, fish, poultry isn't on it, the eggs isn't on it, the cheeses, the yogurts, those are all off it. And then I stopped eating veggie burgers when I decided not to eat any processed food. So basically I eat nuts and seeds and beans and hummus occasionally tofu, but I'm happy with my food plan. So my food plan has my things on it too. You know what I have. Salt and pepper. Yep. That's a spice. Yep. Salt and pepper. I salt and pepper every meal I have. And I have to have just the right pepper, and I have to have just the right salt that I like. It's the right course. I just know, like, it's course number. I know what number pepper I like. I don't want my pepper to be like dust, and I don't want my pepper to be too crunchy. And I just know this is when you really paying attention to what you're having and noticing what you enjoy. I used to just stuff anything in my mouth. It didn't even freaking matter. What would I bother with pepper for? It doesn't even matter, you know? Now I just see myself, no, that's the sea salt I like. That's the brand I like. That's the size grain that I like. I don't want it to be sprinkly. I want it to be a little chunky. I just know what I like, and I pay attention to it, and I enjoy my food very much.
We are right at 11 o'clock, Lulu.
Okay.
I was just going to say, it looks like we had a question about pasta. And I just wouldn't use any kind of pasta personally.
Well, no, there's no pasta made from veggies. And like if you see like a pasta that says spinach pasta, it's got like a dust of spinach in it.
And if we're talking, they do have like zucchini noodles that you can buy frozen.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
shredded. Sure. Use those as a veggie. Absolutely.
Oh, I have a spiralizer.
But if it's fried in a box, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, no, I put like a zucchini on the spiralizer, boop, 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 and I get all these stringy things. I steam them for about 5 minutes, and then I'll put like tomatoes on top. It's like a bowl of pasta. It's good. But I think we're going to, we could talk about we can do another recording on food ideas, because I have a ton of food ideas, like we were just talking about, maybe doing the pasta, zucchini, and